Our guest today at Daybreak has been exposed to construction all his life. A scion of the Consunji family, he now heads his own company, the Consunji Incorporated. So please welcome to Daybreak, Mr. Victor Consunji. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to Daybreak. So, like we mentioned earlier, you came from a family of property developers, so you grew up with it all your life.
Pretty much, as a child, my dad would bring me around the construction sites, so I was exposed to it quite early.
So yeah, your dad's business, DMCI. So now you have your own projects. Tell us more about your project.
Well, yes, the family they've been focused on construction and development, and being exposed to it, and having grown up in many parts of the world, I decided to start my own development company, Consunji. But I had some ideas that I wanted to try out, and so we started a firm that specialized in primary home developments, built for families, even my family, and specifically, I think that we share a certain responsibility when we build. That the unit you build meets the needs of the people who will live there over the long term. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to just stick to this shoebox design of trend of condo living. We want to provide something that other developers can't provide.
Right. You did mention that you build something that you yourself would want to live in.
Right.
So what is that? Where would you want to live? What kind of place do you want to live in?
I grew up in a house. That's the truth. And everybody in my generation grew up in houses. Right, and so it's actually quite strange to me that that you open your door. The trend now is you open your door and the hallway is not yours, and you go out and you go out to your car and it's in a parking lot. I find it strange. So I wanted to put together something that's more traditional, something that I'm familiar with. You go home, you live in this home, right? It's yours. You have you don't have to worry about noise coming from the neighbors or banging on the wall or leaky pipes from somebody else's unit.
Or you can hear your neighbor singing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's your kids, can play in the yard, right?
Exactly.
I think that's the most important. You can take this thing, you can make it pamana to your kids later on. These are all very, very important aspects of a home. So
can we still find that within Metro Manila? And of course, the prices are soaring every year. Is it still possible to have that kind of home within the Metro?
Sure.
It
With
can
us,
be.
no. No, I agree. The prices are increasing, and it's very hard to find a balance of affordable and quality. And I'm not talking about just building quality. I'm talking about quality of life, right? So right now, you have a lot of times you have to choose. It's either too far but it's affordable, or it's right in the center but it's exorbitant prices, right?
Right.
So it's hard to find a balance, and that's what we specialize in, that balance. To provide you the best quality of life and at an affordable rate.
In a recent research, they were saying that Metro Manila is the top 5 real estate investment in the Asia Pacific region. Do you see that as well?
I agree.
Is that really what we can expect, particularly here in Metro Manila?
I think it should be qualified for Filipinos. Yes, I totally agree. We have a lot of overseas workers and and overseas professionals who eventually are going to want to come home. And this, what better place to invest your money than our growing economy, our growing country. And we have a lot of we have a long way to go, but that also means we have a lot of potential. So as an investment, I think it's a great investment.
Now going back to your designs, you said that you incorporate green materials and environmentally friendly materials. So doesn't that, it's ideally it would be nice to have in our home, but isn't it expensive? How could it be affordable to, like, let's say, the middle class?
I think it's a misconception that green is expensive. Let me qualify it. Okay, you may have many places to live, right? But you only have one home. Your house is your home. The village you live in is your home. The city that village is in is your home, and this planet that we live on, this is our home, right? And having as our home, I think good housekeeping and being efficient and not being wasteful is all part of our responsibility. Now, just because it's green doesn't mean it has to be exorbitant. Like, for example, in our green designs, LED lights save you money.
That's true.
Right? So, what's this? We use cross ventilation.
Okay.
This is just good design. It's not, there's no price tag on it. It's
Okay.
just, cross ventilation allows you to use less aircon, which saves energy.
Okay.
Right? And then, for example, we use carbonized bamboo floorings, which is a renewable source. It's also
Bamboo.
anti-resistant.
Okay.
Okay.
See? So,
So in the long run, you do have savings.
exactly. It saves both you, it saves the environment, right?
Right.
And it need not be expensive. There are plenty of green technologies out there that are in its infancy, and it's quite pricey to put into someone's home.
Okay,
But-
so there are some.
But there are green ideas,
Okay.
that allow you to do more, right, and still stay within a certain budget.
Okay.
Those who have existing homes or who are already living in condominiums and maybe the design was not meant to be green, is it still possible for one to convert
Turn
it
green?
somehow and
Yes, I
hopefully
mean-
be more green?
Of course. I mean, which is you can change your lights, you can change
Yes.
your air cons. I mean, this is just basically upgrades to your equipment in the house, right? Which is, but as far you can change maybe some of your materials, your flooring and everything. But you're right. If you start off with a bad footprint, right, it's very hard to go forward. I think the foundation of what you build on is important.
But are most developers now going towards what you have envisioned as well? And of course, there are many, we've undergone many disasters, and of course, the threat of an earthquake is always there. Are more developers now also conscious about that, making sure that it is made according to acceptable standards, or better than acceptable standards?
I'm an engineer by training, and every responsible engineer will tell you that they always try to plan out for the best. Well, in the case for the worst, right? They try to be as responsible as possible to make sure their designs are safe, and minimize any kind of loss in these kinds of calamities. But you can't. That's why they're called calamities, right? That's why they're called acts of God. They'll do their best, and with the new data, with the climate change that's going on, they'll try to incorporate this in there. But if something unexpected comes around, right, it's all a bit up in the air. The best thing you can do is to be prepared, right? And in the case of many designs, they try to minimize what happens. In the case of calamity, fine. Your windows might break, but the structure won't collapse. So forth and so on. I think most responsible developers take this into account. But I have to use the word responsible, right? You have to choose carefully. So,
And it has to go through inspection, and I mean
That's where the LGU comes in. Hopefully,
well, I mean, okay, let's take the case of a storm. Let's say that something like the recent typhoon comes through Metro Manila, right? Will the structures survive? Yes, they'll survive. Will your windows break? Probably.
Okay.
300 kilometer per hour winds is no joke, right? Will you get wet? Probably. But at least there's not going to be a significant loss of life, which I think is important, right? So.
Okay. Now going back, do you have a question? Okay.
after
Going
you,
back
after
to your new projects, I'm just curious. Are they condominiums? Because you did mention that you have the backyard, and it's very similar to having a home. So what are they? What are they?
with a garden?
What do they look like, and where are they located?
We're located in Taguig and in Acacia Estates. So
Okay.
the project's called Mahogany 3. And no, they're not condos.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're actually proper house and lot.
Single detached.
Single
Right.
detached.
Right.
Townhomes also?
Sorry, townhomes as well. Yes.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
and we have different sizes for from starter homes all the way to established families with multi-generations. So
Bigger cuts.
bigger cuts, right?
Yeah.
And it's all one secure neighborhood.
Yeah, it
Which
seems
is
like
great.
yeah, that's the trend now. It seems like most developers, or at least there are many developers who are looking into community development, and it's not unlike before, it's just a building or it's just a row of townhouses. Now you take into consideration that you build a community amongst your consumers
It's
or
true.
clients.
Okay. Well, you can buy a blank lot in, say, Parañaque, right? And build your own house. And that's what you'll get. You'll get a house and a lot, right? But then you're limited to just that lot. Why not buy, a lot in a development which allows you to have swimming pools,
Yeah, right.
your own gym, private theaters, security. I think that's important, right?
Right, a playground.
The playground, and
yeah.
proper roads. These kinds of things are all important to your lifestyle.
Right. I think that's a great idea because there's been a surge of condominiums, and like you said, it's they're selling shoe boxes, and who wants to live in a shoe box?
I'm gonna
So
get
what
in
kind of
trouble for
quality of life? kind of quality of life will you get with that?
But they are
And-
shoe boxes in the central business district, so it's
Eh,
near
yeah.
areas.
Right, I know. I mean, no, I'm not against condominiums,
Yeah, I
but
live
there's a
in one.
lot. There's just really a lot, and they're still building up to now. But this is something different that you're offering, especially in the Taguig area, which is filled with condominiums, and it's also a great neighborhood because you have, everything around there, the restaurants and the malls. So-
And I think one of our strongest points is that we're not crowded. I mean, we have about 400 families in our development. That's just several floors in a condominium building. So you're basically in this very crowded building. It may be a very nice crowded building, but it's still a crowded building.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things that we provide that nobody else can provide is that you're over the span of basically 80,000 square meters, right? This is your neighborhood, your home.
Now, any future projects in mind?
And what's your forecast also for 2014 for the
Yes.
real estate market? Because there are those
think-
who are worried about a property bubble that
Oh
might
yeah,
burst.
I was going to
Yeah.
ask about that.
Is that
There's of
is that a
course it's always
possibility?
good to worry. It's always
Right.
good to worry about it. I think that there's a lot of upside still. Like I said, I think there's still a lot of upside as well, right? But there are certain segments of the development market that there's a bit of an oversupply.
Exactly.
And prices and some of those prices are a bit steep for the target markets that they're aiming for. So I think that those segments are in a little bit of danger of having a bit of a correction.
Bubble
Right,
burst or
right.
a
for
crash.
is this for the higher market or for the mass market?
It's not really for the mass market. I think
Okay.
you'll notice there's a lot of condominium developments going up now that are that promote to be very luxury
Yeah.
and yet sell very small cuts. And that's been the trend. I'm not quite sure that this is the wisest place to put your money.
Right. So just be vigilant with your investments
Right.
at this point. So any future projects? In the
Oh well,
future?
what's this? Of course, we've still got a lot of land in the Taguig area that we're developing. Like I said, this is we actually have control of about 80 hectares of property over there. So for the next year or so, we'll be busy with most of these house and lot units that
Okay.
we're putting
Well,
together.
best of luck. All the best to you
Thank
and
you.
your
Thank
new
you.
company.
Come
And thank
visit
you
us.
for coming over to Daybreak.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.